as you all know by now, we feature businesses of all sizes on this podcast and talk about the one thing that they all have in common: how technology is transforming their industry. But I'm also conscious you don't always get to see what goes on behind the curtain here. I mean, you might hear me say email me or tweet me at the end of every episode. What happens to some of those conversations? Because away from the microphone, I try to be the connector guy. So if a startup founder contacts me with a problem, they're feeling low, or they're just in need of a little inspiration, I'm the guy that will say, hey, you need to speak with, and then point them in the right direction. Because helping people is one of my favourite aspects of recording this daily tech podcast. And like I said, I'm conscious that's something you don't get to see. So if you are a tech startup founder at any stage of your journey, I always try and inspire you every day, and that's why today I've invited the guys from HubSpot onto the show. And we all know about HubSpot, right? You know, they're a huge company, but they weren't always like that. And they too have been on their own tech startup journey. And that's what I wanted to share today. So buckle up and hold on tight so I can beam your ears all the way to Dublin in Ireland so we can speak with Kieran Flanagan, VP of Marketing at HubSpot. So a massive warm welcome to the show. Can you tell the listeners a little about who you are and what you do?
Yeah, my name is Kieran Flanagan. I am VP of Marketing for a company called HubSpot. And the real kind of 10-second introduction to HubSpot is we have a full suite of growth tools for growing companies. So marketing, sales, customer success, and CRM. And what I do at HubSpot, I've really done 3 core roles during my time at HubSpot. I joined in the first group of 12 employees way back when to grow out our international business. That went really well. We grew pretty fast. I did that for 2.5 years. Then I joined another small group of people who had the mission to grow out a different go-to-market and kind of disrupt our current go-to-market and through freemium. And I did that for another 2.5 years. And then over the previous 12 months, what I've really done is taken on the entire top part of HubSpot's funnel, or what we call a flywheel. And it's basically all of the demand we generate as a business. And the interesting thing about HubSpot is what most people find interesting about us is like we're in this group of fastest growing SaaS companies, and all of our revenue comes from demand created by the marketing team. So we don't do cold calling, outbound sales, any of that type of thing.
Fantastic. And I suspect that most people listening all over the world will know all about your full stack of products for marketing, sales, service, and CRM that are famously powerful alone, but obviously better when used together. And also, I think to many people listening, particularly startup founders, HubSpot is a huge company. But it's not always been this way. And I'm quite conscious that we often only judge an individual or a company by the success that we see right now. But we don't share that 10-year overnight success story that contained blood, sweat, tears, and a lot of sacrifices along the way. So with that in mind, can I take you guys back in time and maybe ask you to offer an overview of the story behind HubSpot and the challenges that you had to overcome as a startup to get right where you are today?
Yeah, it's interesting because even when I joined, which was when HubSpot they had product market fit, they were seeing some success, and the company was maybe 300 people. And I really wanted to join a startup, and I was like, oh, wow, this company, maybe it's too big. And now we're, many multiples of that. And I think over the past 12 years, we've been lucky in that we've managed to figure out some things that have really helped our growth. And so one of those things was going international. That's been a big success of ours for us, and international continues to grow at a really, really rapid pace. Like one of the interesting things about startups, and particularly HubSpot did this well, is I think it's always good to have a mission and a clear enemy, or something that you are kind of fighting against. And so when HubSpot initially launched, the story of it is interesting in that they had this kind of mission to disrupt outbound marketing and to help marketers do better marketing. And at the time, we kind of pushed a lot on that and talked about doing lovable marketing. And what that does is it creates a lot of fans, right? It creates people who have empathy towards that and want to see themselves being a better marketer. And then our job is to supply the tools to help them do that. And I would say initially when we first launched, our tools probably didn't fulfill the promise of our mission. And over time, our tools have grown into that mission. And that obviously helps a lot, generates a lot of word of mouth, helps with churn. And then we've also managed to continually take risks and disrupt our own go-to-market. So we were a very fast-growing SaaS company that had the traditional type of funnel where you generate leads and you turn those leads into opportunities for a sales team, and a sales team qualify them and sell them. And then at the start of 2006, we launched a whole new suite of products, sales products, and we went to market in a very different way. We went through a freemium model because we believe that customers in the future, and that's happening today, want to extract value from your software before they pay you money. And that's been another decision that's worked out really, really well for us.
And I'm curious as well, as someone in your position, you've probably had a lot of experience in this field as well. And for startup founders that are listening, is there anything that you think startups should be focusing on sooner than they actually usually do?
Yeah, that's a great question. Actually, one of the things that is interesting about startups is thinking about the decisions you make today, thinking about those decisions through the lens of would we have made the same decision in 3 years' time? Like the company that we want to become, would we have made that decision? Because you try to get the balance right between making, like startups always need to grow. They're always under pressure to get growth, like most companies, but it's kind of more acute when you're a startup. And so you can sometimes make decisions that are great in the short term, but maybe have long-term repercussions that you haven't thought about. And so what do I mean by that? Well, a good example of that is when I'm in a startup, one of the things I really want to do is hire talented people. And maybe it's a little more difficult for me because I'm not an established company. So one of the bargaining chips I have is titles. And so what I can do is I can offer people who may be a manager or something within one company, like VP roles, or I can give away these titles a lot easier than more established companies can. And that's kind of good in the short term because you get these talented people in. But as the company grows and you need to add more kind of seasoned and experienced people to your bench and your senior leadership team, you start to create a kind of problems for yourself. You have a weird mismatch of the people who are like at that VP level or whatever level it is at. And you can get yourself into a situation where you might actually have to like demote people, or you get yourself into a situation where you can't hire the people you want because when they look at the other people who have the same title as them, they don't think that's the company for them. So I think that goes across like many things in terms of how you build your infrastructure. Like when you're a startup, and we've definitely done this at times, you cobble together tech, and the decisions you make when you build that infrastructure are very difficult to untangle when you become a bigger company.